Been asking him for weeks and weeks, literally since the start of this show. So we've got him. I went and spoke to him on his bus. It was super, super cool. He was absolutely lovely. And we had a chat about everything that's been going on with him, basically. Like Keep the Coffins Coming EP, Parachutes last year, and how those two recording processes overlapped. Really intense. Put himself through the emotional ringer and then some. Really interesting to get into that. And then also just like being an influential artist. And we mentioned bands. We mentioned Water Parks. We mentioned Milk Teeth. And just these kind of all these different bands who look up to My Chemical Romance and Frank as an artist and are taking risks and reinventing themselves with every release like My Chemical Romance did. Really, really interesting, and just talk to an absolute legend like Frank. So here we go, Frank Iero. Awesome. So Frank, thank you so much for joining us on the Rock Sound podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for coming out and doing this.
Oh man, absolute pleasure. So I just wanted to have a chat really about Keep the Coffins Coming. You worked with Albini and how that's come off the back of Parachutes as well, Ross Robinson, and then maybe a bit of a tour and things like that as well. So
yeah, all is good with me. Yes, to talk about. Yeah, those are some. It's been a crazy year. It really has. I've had a lot of opportunities to cross a lot of things off my bucket list, and definitely working with Steve was one of them. Working with Ross was one of them. I mean, unbelievable.
Amazing. I can't wait to get into it. So we'll kick off with Keep the Coffins Coming then.
Okay.
So you recorded with Steve
yes.
for that. A previous feature you did with us earlier this year, you were saying that, like you say, you just mentioned your bucket list. It was a complete crossing off moment. Take us inside it. Like it must have been quite intense.
It was. You know, I think the thing about it too was like just finding out like, all right, hey, let's contact Steve and see if he's even interested and or has any availability or anything like that. And he was interested to do it. And he was like, I got 3 days, this weekend, like if you can make it out, let's do it. And so I was like, oh, I'm getting a U-Haul. So we got a U-Haul, and I packed up a bunch of equipment and stuff like that. And my brother-in-law Evan and our drummer Matt Olson, like we all jumped in the U-Haul. And our friend Eddie, who teched for us, like we drove out to Chicago, and it was like super cold, man. It was like I think it was February, something like that. And it was unreal. We got in there. You stay in the studio. There's a little room and board, which is great. And you eat, live, breathe the studio, and he's very. What did he say? He said, "I have the bedside manner of a walk-in refrigerator," basically. And he like it's true, man. Like he's not like a warm like a guy that's like wants to get in your mix or doesn't want to be part of your band. Like wants to be very fly on the wall. But I really feel like that session, working with him, and again him kind of giving you the power to be like, hey, listen, like you're not here because you're not good enough. Like you're here because like you write great songs and you know what you're doing. So like I'm not gonna why would I tell you how to be you or be your band? Like I'm not in your fucking band. You know what I mean? That's like why would I know? And so like that it's like, oh wow, all right, that makes a lot of sense. And then you play the first song and then he like it's done and you go Steve, how was that? He's like, I don't know, Frank. How was that? And you're like, oh shit. Like you're like, all right, yeah. You know what? Let's do it again. Yeah. And then you do it again, and then you're like, oh man, you start to get that power back, and you feel this confidence take over, which is really, really nice. And I feel like that really helped with finishing writing the whole of Parachutes and going into that recording session.
Amazing. So what was the timeline between the EP and the album then? So they almost happened in tandem then?
Yeah. Well, I'd say that the EP was recorded. February, March, and then we recorded with Ross in June, July. So like in between those two sessions is when I finished writing Parachutes and then went right in and recorded it. So
cool.
Yeah.
So when you went in with Ross then for Parachutes, to say with the kind of the quite tight time frame between the two records, like with Ross, obviously he's famed for kind of really getting inside people's heads and bringing out that emotion. I mean, to work with Steve and then Ross, like how was that? It must have been a very full-on process.
It was, man, it was night and day. Ross is so hands-on. He does this thing that he lovingly refers to as mental surgery, and he will ask you questions upon questions about questions about what a song is about, what you're trying to say, why you're saying what you're saying, how it relates to who you're talking to, like to the point where you're like, is there another question you could possibly ask me? And then he does, and he answers that, like he asks that one last question that like totally changes how you think about that song and where it actually stems from. It's so insane. I came to so many realizations in that process about who I am as an artist, who I am as a person. I've never gone to therapy and had that many breakthroughs, let alone a recording process. It was unbelievable, and he and I have stayed close ever since. Like, he's just someone that I genuinely enjoy the company of, and he really, I don't know, man. He helps my brain. He really does. I love him so much. He's a great fucking guy. He's amazing.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
So did Ross, the two of them, really put you through the emotional ringer there?
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, I think I must have cried like every day. It was insane. It was just like, I was like a baby. I couldn't even, I couldn't hold it together at certain points. But here's the thing: you hear the stories, right, about Ross, and at least my impression from afar was that he was going to be like this imposing figure, like maybe in an aggressive way, and so I was like trying to get prepared for that, but it was not like that, not even a little bit. For at least for us, like, and I don't know if it's tailored per artist, but for us it was based in so much positivity that I've never experienced that before. Like, I come from a long line of people feeling like they need to break you down as an artist in order to build you back up, and Ross didn't subscribe to that behavior with us. He was like, why would I do that? Like, why wouldn't I just build you up? Like, you're great. Like, let's go up from here. Let's not go down. Like, I'm not gonna berate you and tell you you're not good enough, because if you weren't good enough, you wouldn't be here. And I was like, oh my god, like, I wanna hug you. You know what I mean? Like, it was amazing. He was that process was unbelievable.
That's so cool. I mean, it's like, especially between the EPs and even with looking at Stomach Aches as well. Like, they've all got that Frank stamp on them, but they're all very different as well. They all kind of stand on their own kind of feet. Is reinvention very important, do you think? Is that something, like, between records, do you think it's very important to kind of try experiments and do new things, and that's something that's gone across your entire career? Is that something that's very important to you as an artist?
It is. I feel like that stagnancy is creative death. You know what I mean? I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. I think that there's a fine line between improving upon something and just kind of repeating yourself. That repetitious stuff, it's masturbation. You know what I mean? Like, honestly. So I'd rather kind of challenge myself and push myself to do things that scare me, and that's the kind of stuff that brings me the most joy as an artist, is to change things up in that way.
Amazing. So is that kind of been the thinking behind, obviously, because you've changed the like, even the name of the band and like that kind of whole thing, like, and obviously you've had Death Spells and Leathermouth, and it's all been so different. Has that been that way of thinking? Yeah,
I think at least for the solo act, like, the idea is that you go into the studio and you reinvent the band. You change the way you think about music, how you make music, what music means to you, and what you're trying to say. And then inevitably you come out of the studio a different person, a different band, and then you have to call it the same thing. It just seems ridiculous to me. So I thought, all right, well, I guess I'm in a really good position right now, because my name, my personal name isn't going to change, and if it's a solo act, it's always going to be in front of the band name. So I can change the band and keep my name in front of it, and I don't think it would confuse people as much. So, and also too, it keeps me in like that honeymoon period of like, I love starting new bands, new projects, and kind of coming up with the names, coming up with the aesthetic of it, and figuring out what it's going to sound like. That shit's so much fun. I think if I didn't have that, I think I'd get bored and I would stop.
Yeah, so it keeps it exciting.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
For me, at least, yeah.
And, I mean, do you think as well, like, obviously, as an influential artist, do you think a lot of bands play it by the book these days? Do you think there isn't enough of that?
I mean, I think it's hard enough without somebody like me coming in and talking shit about things I don't, bands I don't know, but I feel like I think there's a widespread fear of taking chances because like people, records aren't selling, man. Like, bands aren't staying around very long because they financially can't fucking afford it, and labels are kind of like just pulling their hair out and drawing straws and dumping bands and picking new ones up and just trying to see anything that'll work, and it's a lot of fear-based activity, and that's sad because are you gonna have bands like Sonic Youth ever again? Are you gonna have bands like like Dinosaur Jr. and Flaming Lips and all these bands that like were nurtured? We're given the opportunity to like explore new things, new soundscapes. Like that's what I think we're really gonna miss out on. If we don't support artistry and support bands that we love taking chances. Like maybe you don't get it right away, but I think you should give it a shot, as opposed to just kind of like having 800 discographies in your pocket and skipping through all of them and never listen to any of it.
Yeah, because I mean, like newer bands like Milk Teeth, Water Parks. I mean, they're two vastly different bands, but it feels like they're doing that. It feels like they're bringing in so many different things and doing something different with each release. I mean, is that really cool to see? Because these bands who look up to you as well. Is that really cool to see, kind of in that way?
Yeah, honestly, I back anybody that puts their neck on the line and takes a chance. I'm a fan of Milk Teeth. I love that band. I think they're great guys and girl, and I think I think they write some really great songs. They have some really good equipment. I actually bought a head off of Chris last summer.
Amazing.
Water Parks, I'm not extremely familiar with their music, but I've met them at Slam Dunk, and they were very, very kind, and I think that's awesome. So, but again, like, anybody that's out there, like, doing it because they love doing it, and doesn't give a shit, like, what people think, they're just gonna, they do it because they have to fucking do it, I back it 100%.
Amazing. And just like to go back to You Are My Sunshine as well, there's a really interesting way of ending the EP. It kind of felt obviously a Johnny Cash cover, but there was kind of like, as well as having kind of that sort of classic Frank feel to it, it had it's almost reminded me a bit of Bright Eyes as well. Like, was it really fun to kind of put other influences onto another big influence on yourself?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, all right, a song like You Are My Sunshine, just a standard song, that hundreds, maybe 1,000 people have covered that song. To throw your hat in that ring and be like, you know what, like, yeah, 600,000 people have covered this song, but this is my take. Like, it's a little bit different, and I have something to offer as well. Like that was really fun to do. It's also a big challenge, man. Like, I feel like those are big shoes to fill, and I've never felt like taking a song that I really love and then copying exactly the way someone else did it. Like, I don't feel any, like, that doesn't make my soul feel good. So, like, if I want to do a song, like, I want to do it in maybe a different way, at least put like my spin on it a little bit, and I think as an artist, like, that's how I would want someone to take my creation. I would want them to be inspired by it and run with it, so hopefully I've made somebody happy and done it a little bit of justice. Yeah.
Definitely have. I mean, and for Frank Iero and the Patients, like, what's the plan going into 2018? I know you're touring heavily to the end of the year.
We are. Yeah, we're touring to the end of the year, and then I say this all the time, but I really mean it. I'm going home, and I'm staying there for a little while, and I've said that so many times in the past, and then I'm like, but here's another tour, Johnson. Yeah. And that's not going to be the case. I actually, I was going against my better judgment, and I started booking things, and I actually ended up canceling everything, and just because it's just not going to work, and I need to, like, kind of get some time to, like, I don't know, be a human being for a little while, and figure out what's next, I think I'm going to be creating, but I'll probably be doing it from home.
Amazing. Perfect place to end, Frank. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Amazing, yeah. So it was just so interesting. I think to hear